Joining us right now, not quite because he's adjusting the light in his hotel room. I believe he is, if I remember correctly, live from Los Angeles. He was down there covering the Clippers and Mavs last night. The one, the only, and hold on before he comes on here. I'm sorry, Sam. The Milwaukee Bucks are acquiring Jay Crowder in a trade with the Brooklyn Nets for 5 second-round picks. Now the second domino has fallen, and Sam's on with us live. Good morning, Samuel.
Good morning, gentlemen. Getting all fancy with the video action here. Nice to be with you. See faces for once.
You know what? I don't often see you in your glasses. I'm just gonna. This is just a personal note here. When you have your glasses on, you and your boy look a lot alike. Like for real, because he's usually got the new glasses on. I see.
The older one?
Huh? Say that again. I missed you because you were drinking coffee.
Hey, you know what? When I wasn't on video, you didn't see this stuff.
We're all exposed now.
Actually, is the audio okay? I can throw AirPods on. Is it coming through?
Audio is great. And before we get into the trade deadline and everything, just since you were down there, Sam, quick thoughts on what you saw out of Kyrie Irving and those Mavs and their loss to another contender, the Clippers.
To be totally honest with you, I mean, they won the game. They look good. I didn't see a ton because it is that time of year where I go to the game and I'm sitting on press row and the game's right in front of me. But we have a Russell Westbrook story that we've been working on that's going to be out later today that I was chipping away at. And you know, I mean, it was honestly kind of a fun night because you had the game itself, which, yeah, you get glimpses of Kyrie. And I think my quick take there is basketball wise, it's going to be obviously just, you know, electric offensively and they're going to be dangerous. We'll see what they do defensively and big picture is a bigger conversation. But, you know, then I had the Westbrook story and then I get back to the hotel and I was going to focus on that a little more. And then the Durant trade happened. So, you know, fireworks all over the place. The league never disappoints when it comes to this kind of stuff. So a lot going on, of course.
Well, Sam, without giving up all the details of your story, obviously if you're trying to figure out the next step for Westbrook, where's that likely buyout going to end for him?
To be honest, yeah, I don't have. I mean, other than what's been reported, you know, Chicago Clippers. The Clippers thing is interesting because you get the sense that, you know, ownership, front office might not be that much into it, but they are like a lot of teams. You know, the star players have a voice. Paul George very close with Russell Westbrook, and you know, and that could be a driving force. We'll see what happens with Russ. Our piece is honestly kind of looking backwards a little more, trying to tie a bow on his, you know, kind of ill-fated Lakers tenure and get into the fact that in the last couple of weeks, you know, I wrote in, I think, mid-December that it was looking unlikely that they would trade him because it was going much, much better than it had before. And then from there, you know, Anthony Davis gets hurt, they struggle, and it got more and more tense near the end. And it really reached a point where they felt like, for the sake of the locker room, partly, they had to move on.
Sam Amick of The Athletic joining us. Sam, is there any more clarity on Anthony Davis? A lot of people looking into, which is always accurate, looking into his body language, obviously, after LeBron broke the record, his press conference, he was obviously down from the loss. Any clarity on that and where his head's at right now?
Yeah, the sense that I got is that, honestly, some of the Westbrook stuff that unfolded that night, you know, specifically at halftime of the game against the Thunder, the Lakers give up 76 points. And, you know, and ESPN had reported this part of the situation first. You know, they had a locker room situation where Darvin Ham was getting into the team, you know, basically, lack of a better way of putting it, really pissed off about the defense, made that clear, but then kind of diverted his attention to Russ. And Russ got defensive. And one of the things that was kind of a hallmark of Russ's Lakers tenure was people being frustrated around him at his inability to kind of just, you know, it's not as simple as being coachable, but like that mentality of like, I'm future Hall of Famer Russell Westbrook, and that he would be defensive to criticism, that he wouldn't be self-aware, and he would be, you know, even one person said delusional to me in terms of the way he saw his game. I think it was challenging for people around him.
Sam, so you're there, and we're talking about the Lakers a little bit. The move they actually did make, I mean, to move off of Westbrook and adding what they did to get Hachimura recently, and you get Vanderbilt, D'Angelo Russell back, Beasley. They got a short runway here to get to where they want to go, but how much better do you think the Lakers got?
I like it. I mean, it's crazy, first of all, that like that trade, I mean, we didn't even get our story out yet, and that trade is now feels like it was a week ago, right? Because
You're right.
But I mean, I give the Lakers credit. You're talking about getting 3 rotation players, and you can argue the individual merits of each guy. We can do that a little bit, but for 1 first-round pick and then the expiring contract of Russell Westbrook, who, like I just kind of laid out, is a guy they were more than happy to move on from at the end. So Vanderbilt and Beasley are generally seen as respected players who are going to help. D'Angelo Russell, it cracks me up because when I was at the Clippers Mavs game yesterday and talking to different people around the league about that trade, it was universally the same reaction, which was D'Angelo. Like, people just are not convinced that he can play winning basketball. He's one of those guys that might play really well against bad teams, struggle against good teams. And he's been really good for Minnesota the last couple of months. So we'll see, a big question mark there. But, 3 guys who helped them and only giving up 1 first. And I'm sure right now they're burning those phones to try to do something with their other assets.
The Los Angeles Lakers have traded Thomas Bryant to the Nuggets for Devon Reed and 3 second-round picks.
I told you they were burning phones.
Yes, you were right.
I've been really hard on Rob Pelinka in the past. I am not impressed with his GMing, but in your mind, just quick reaction, is this the best trade deadline he's had by far? Seems like it.
I mean, it's tough to kind of, I can't recall, I don't have that LeBron memory recall to bring up every other one, but this is a good one.
Yeah.
I also think, honestly, guys, I mean, the Lakers it's just crazy, like how they function, like sure, Rob's had bad deadlines before, but we never know who's making decisions, like the Westbrook thing, and to remind people in Sacramento who already know this, and it's salt in the wound, I think, is that the Buddy Hield trade was done with the Kings and Lakers. Like, it was done, with Kyle Kuzma and Montrezl Harrell coming back to the Kings. And then guess what happened? LeBron and AD and the guys on the team, preferred Russell Westbrook. And so then that trade was undone. And so that, if you're Rob Pelinka, is the tricky environment that you've been working in. And then, the flip side of that is that, Rob, as far as his front office, has spent a lot of his time being, pretty, not isolated is a little extreme, but like not necessarily the most collaborative guy who, as far as how he functions. So, I mean, I'm rambling a little bit. That's a good trade. Maybe they traded Thomas Bryant here because he had the nerve to call for the ball down in the post.
That'll live in infamy.
Booted him.
Sam, you mentioned it. It's perfectly stated too, because I mean the Lakers, that's a pretty significant trade. We get a Kyrie trade a couple days before. These are all big, but then bam, last night, Kevin Durant to Phoenix feels like a landscape changer in a lot of different areas. It's the full teardown of what the Nets were trying to do before. Your immediate reaction when you heard that KD was going to Phoenix?
Super, super quickly, just to get it out of my system, because we never talk about the Denver Nuggets, who are leading the West. I like that move for the Nuggets. Thomas Bryant's got some potential. Right. They need a big. I mean, I didn't see what's going back yet. Oh, there it is, Devon Reed in 3 seconds. No, that's pretty good. Now the KD thing, I'm actually kind of fired up about it, to be honest with you. Partly selfishly, because I'm a self-serving West Coast-based national NBA writer who will now cover the Phoenix Suns more extensively. But, Kevin in particular, I've enjoyed covering his career. And I'll never forget talking to Kevin in the Seattle Sonics locker room in his rookie year, a very long time ago. I remember this quick side story, talking to Kevin when the plus minus stat had literally just become a thing. And I remember, getting Kevin's opinion on the plus minus stat. And I just have this vision in my head of this baby-faced, just kind of obvious, slender, incredible player back then. And so all these chapters, ups and downs, pros and cons, all that stuff. I think this could be a really, really good stop for Kevin, where it feels like, at least for a time, it's going to be about the basketball again and not all the nonsense. And, his going from the Warriors to the Nets to the Suns, that middle chapter, the Nets chapter, feels almost to me like the classic rebound relationship where you didn't necessarily leave the Warriors for all the right reasons. You didn't necessarily join the Nets for all the right reasons, and maybe this is the recalibration where we get the best of Kevin Durant. And I wrote it today. I think that when a guy is that great, the fans, who get caught up in a lot of the drama and pick sides, fans should want guys like Kevin and LeBron to be featured on the biggest stages, not stuck in dysfunctional situations.
No, 100% agree. Sam Amick joins us from LA on the trade deadline, special trade deadline special. We'll have Sam for a few extra minutes than we normally do. Sam, when you look at Brooklyn, just back to them now, all the wings they have, safe to say, and I know that trade, we read that earlier, is not completely official, meaning that they've got room to bring in another team. Do you fully expect them to be at least a little bit more active today to balance out that roster?
You talking about Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was reported that they intend on keeping Mikal Bridges. That's significant because certainly his market would be at a very high level. I don't know what they're going to do. They are I mean, you're talking about a GM and Sean Marks who I think is on somewhat thin ice out there, and that was the case before. He had the everything is fine meme behind him with the fire, and I mean, it's not good out there. Joe Tsai, their owner, was, I'm sure, on cloud nine when they got the superstar trio together, and to see it go from 3 all-time greats in Kyrie and James Harden and Kevin Durant to this, where they have a bunch of good players and they have a ton of picks now. They have flexibility galore, but they have just lost a lot of relevance and are not going to be contenders in the East. It'll probably be a middling team. So we'll see what they do. What are we at now? We're at less than 3 hours before the deadline.
Yeah, I'm thinking about other teams in that same scenario, Sam, because, I mean, if you think about it, 2 MVPs have been traded. All-Star, I mean, Westbrook, Durant, Kyrie. This is amazing, the activity that's happened. But teams that have been quiet so far, let's say, Memphis, Philly, Cleveland, teams that think maybe they've got a shot. Do you think this is a snowball effect and we're getting a bunch more moves over the next couple hours?
Maybe. The one, and I'm looking at text on my phone as we speak about this topic, is the Raptors continue to be front and center right now. And, I love the poker game aspect of trade deadline day, where you got an executive like Masai Ujiri, who's one of the best in the business, might actually be the highest paid guy in the business for what it's worth. And now, he's got this roster full of guys whose market is incredibly high. And like one agent had just said to me, like, you've got to imagine that he has crazy offers across the board, and specifically for OG Anunoby and even more specifically, teams in the West, because what Phoenix just did, and go ahead and take a big gulp, Kings fans, because your next couple of months just got a whole lot harder. Like what Phoenix just did, what the Lakers just did, obviously makes things tougher in the West. And Dave, I saw some of your tweets about this topic earlier. So if you're looking at a guy like OG Anunoby, a two-way talent that you're Memphis, or the Clippers, you got to really get aggressive. And I think it would surprise me if something like that didn't happen.
Well, and switching now, fully to the Kings, let me ask you first, just in this front office is so buttoned up, and as a fan, I appreciate that, but it does make a lot of guesswork for us. What is your overall?
Back,
say that again.
I said, you want Vladdy back?
From the league standpoint, yes. As a Kings fan, I'm good. But yeah, with Vlade, you had a little bit more inside intel from 50,000 feet for you. What are you seeing out of this front office philosophically as we head down towards noon and towards the deadline?
50,000. I can't even get the 30,000 foot frequent.
I want you way up there, dude.
All right. They you guys know this already. They, as of yesterday, I haven't connected on them today at all, but the word protective remains kind of the key word, protective of their core, protective of what they have. They like what they have. They value the elite offense that is a huge part of their identity. They recognize that they need to get better defensively, but they don't want to, do that at the expense of the offense. One guy that it wouldn't surprise me to see on the move that is a little superfluous from an offensive standpoint is Terrence Davis. So is there something you can do there? I was kind of told that in those Matisse Thybulle possibilities with Philly, that would be the guy the Sixers would want. But I'll quickly qualify and say that, the Thybulle stuff has kind of, I would probably be surprised to see that happen. And even partly, again, never say never, but like he's got, such an extreme offensive limitation to his game that is a consideration for this Kings team. So they've been tied to Jared Vanderbilt, who, I think that was active as of yesterday, where they were, it seems and feels like they were hoping to, pluck him from Utah for, however many second round picks. And then ultimately, he goes to the Lakers in that deal. So that gives you some idea of the type of things they're looking at. Mason Plumlee, Nerlens Noel, two other guys who have been tied to the Kings. So, they're looking, and, that's what's crazy about their jobs, executives in general, is like, man, you can't have any tunnel vision and just, look at certain possible trades. You have to have intel about the context of what everybody else is doing and look for opportunities within that to maybe, like you mentioned, Brooklyn, pick up quote unquote scraps, or truly find out what Masai Ujiri is doing in Toronto. Just a massive part of their job is having clarity about the market and trying to make the most of that.
I also wonder too, Sam, just the difference. We alluded to a couple different front offices. I mean, what Phoenix did feels like a championship caliber type of move. What the Lakers are always trying to be championship contenders. I don't know if what they did gets them there. Dallas is trying to do that. The Kings made it clear they want to make the postseason. They're still tracking all that, but without mortgaging any future, seemingly, is what you're kind of talking about. But also, it feels like they still need to make another jump to that other tier. But that doesn't have to be done now. That could still be done in this offseason or another time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, in real time to what degree something like the Kevin Durant trade might have changed their calculus. For all I know, just being, excuse me, transparent, like for all I know this morning, because I haven't gotten any information on that side, is, they could have pivoted and Harrison Barnes could be out there right now as a piece. Who knows? And I'm speculating. I have no idea. I don't think that's the case at all. But the West is brutal. It's funny because this long playoff streak, not to go down that road too far, but the playoff drought, one thing that strikes me about it, you go back and look at the standings of all those years the Kings missed the playoffs. Like, it's pretty damn hard to make the playoffs. There were years where, you had to win 48 games to get in there. And so, that's where their jobs are tough right now because, you have a very kind of lovable, enjoyable core right now that has resonated with the fans. But then you look up and you study the schedule down the stretch of the season and you realize that all that goodwill and kind of, positivity could go away quickly if you struggle too much. So they got a lot to chew on right now for sure.
Sam Amick of The Athletic with us, and not to go all Windhorst or anything here, but I do find it interesting with less than 3 hours left. I'm looking at like the Thomas Bryant move, and obviously that would be an interdivision move, which is rare. But we are seeing some interconference moves, and you're seeing a lot of these wings. Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox are obviously aware that this team needs to improve defensively. They really need something down low to help out behind Domantas Sabonis. They have second rounders. They have Len Holmes, Terrence Davis, et cetera, to work with. The fact that they have been almost completely inactive makes me wonder if they're holding out and working on something else as we get closer. It's just tough for me, Sam, to imagine they're just going to roll through the deadline with Kessler Edwards.
I would agree, but I think it's more, we joked about 50,000 feet. They're hovering, with their King's drone, if you will, at 10,000 feet over all these situations. And, you would hope and think that they have something in front of them offer wise that they can go back to at the very last minute. If it's like worst case scenario that they might think helps their team. And that a lot of times is the case. Honestly, one of my least favorite parts of my job in terms of not having my curiosity ever like properly satiated, if that makes sense, is like, it would, all the years we've done this, it would blow our minds to be in the room, I think, and truly see like what was available, and we just never get all of that information. I think sometimes when we get 10% of that information, it's like, the endorphins go off for the basketball fans. So, who knows? I don't know what they have in front of them. But again, they're protective. They like this group, and we'll see what they do.
All guests come to you from the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Sam, Dave brought up Holmes. What's the market for him? Is there interest anymore around the league for Richaun Holmes?
I don't think so. In a vacuum, just talent-wise, sure. But $25 million, 25 million reasons, that's just not good value on a contract. And there's just not a lot of, he's not, I don't think, perceived as, an impact player in the kind of way that is going to compel a team to take on that kind of a deal, unless there's some other angle that I'm missing where it might help them. And then the flip side of that is obviously the Kings being, or even Richaun more so, in a tricky spot because I don't think he's much of a buyout candidate because they're not going to want to give, that back. And even though that had kind of been floated. So yeah, I'd be surprised if something happens with Richaun. It's a tricky spot there.
If you want your trade deadline needs satiated, I love that word, Sam Amick on Twitter, Sam Amick on The Athletic. Make sure you check out The Athletic, subscribe and save. As a matter of fact, I think they had a $19 special going yesterday. I think slams into today, which is always good when I get
again?
Dude, I believe I'm on the special plan, 2 subscriptions for $800, and I just keep rolling it over. So everybody else save because it's worth it at my price. It's twice as worth it at yours. Sam, you got a long day, a lot of stuff to do, and to give us a half an hour out of your schedule. We really appreciate it. Thank you, brother.
You got it, guys. Enjoy today. See you.
All right.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care. That is Sam Amick of The Athletic, and we got